The city of Antwerp is quiet under the night sky, but inside a restricted area of the airport, a storm is about to break loose. The Panther crew, a highly skilled gang of international thieves, moves with precision. Their leader, Giovanna, a sharp and ruthless mastermind, stands near a private hangar, her eye scanning the area with practiced patience. Inside the airport terminal, Giovanna is in disguise. Her crisp uniform and poised demeanor make her indistinguishable from the real flight attendants. She moves through security, blending seamlessly, nodding politely to passing officers. But behind that composed expression, she is studying everything: the guards, the cameras, the emergency exits. She needs to know every detail of the security layout. At the same time, Donnie Wilson, once a small-time crook in Los Angeles, now a trusted member of the Panther crew, is inside the hangar. He is dressed as a law enforcement officer, his fake badge and uniform convincing enough to get him through restricted doors. His job is critical. He must secure the files and the red diamond, the centerpiece of their heist. With earpieces connected, the team moves like a well-rehearsed orchestra. Giovanna whispers commands, guiding them based on her vantage point. Then, the moment arrives. The vault is breached. Donnie and his team work quickly, stuffing the files into a bag while another Panther carefully lifts the red diamond, its deep crimson glow reflecting off the steel walls. Outside, Giovanna notices a shift. Security guards are becoming restless, their radios buzzing with activity. They are starting to suspect something. Now, she says, calmly but firmly. In an instant, the team switches uniforms, the law enforcement disguises are gone, and now they emerge as SWAT officers. The real security team hesitates. Who is real, and who is not? Then, in a blur of movement, the Panthers walk straight out of the building, blending with actual security officers in the chaos of the lockdown. They move with confidence, heading towards their getaway vehicle. By the time the alarm fully rings across the airport, the Panther crew is already gone. Detective Nick O'Brien, once the most feared cop on the streets, now looks like a shadow of his former self. His marriage is over. His wife has left him, taking nearly everything: his home, his dignity, his sense of purpose. A half-empty whiskey bottle sits on the table. Nick stares at the flickering TV screen, barely paying attention, until a breaking news report catches his eye. Antwerp Airport diamond heist: authorities believe the notorious Panther crew is responsible. Nick leans forward, his eyes narrowing. The moment he hears the name Panther crew, a familiar sensation tightens in his chest. Nick had let Donnie slip away years ago, but deep down, he always knew he'd see his name again. Without hesitation, he picks up his phone and makes a call. Get me everything on the Antwerp heist. Minutes later, Nick is back on his feet. His pain, his heartbreak, it doesn't matter anymore. He has a case to solve. Seeking answers. Nick's first move is to find someone who might have answers. He drives across Los Angeles to a quiet suburban neighborhood. Merriman's widow. She stiffens the moment she sees Nick. They both remember how Merriman died. I'm not here to cause trouble, Nick says, his voice low. I just need information. The woman hesitates but eventually lets him in. She has heard whispers, stories about Donnie making moves overseas. She doesn't know details, but she knows he isn't the same man he used to be. Nick leaves her home with one thought in his mind: Donnie is in Europe. And he isn't just surviving, he's thriving. While Nick is gathering his leads, Donnie and the Panther crew are already planning their next job. They are now in Nice, France, preparing for an even bigger heist, the World Diamond Center. This time, Donnie takes on a different role. He is no longer just the man inside the vault, he is the man who gets the information they need. Dressed in a suit, with an air of quiet confidence, Donnie walks into the World Diamond Center, introducing himself as an executive investor. His job is simple: study everything. He shakes hands with bank officials, listens carefully as they discuss security measures, and most importantly, he memorized the camera placements. The Panther crew is watching from outside. Giovanna listens through an earpiece, making notes. Meanwhile, Nick O'Brien has landed in France. Through his contacts, he meets Detective Hugo, a local officer who has been following the Panther crew. Hugo provides Nick with one crucial piece of intel. Donnie Wilson is here. He's planning something. Nick doesn't hesitate. He goes straight to Donnie's home. When Donnie opens the door, Nick is already inside before he can react. The two men stand in silence for a moment. A shared history between them. Nick smirks. Did you miss me? Donnie doesn't flinch. He knows this was bound to happen. Then, to Donnie's surprise, Nick does something unexpected. And he makes an offer. You and I both know how this ends, Nick says. So let me in. You need someone who has nothing to lose. Donnie watches him carefully. The Nick he once knew was powerful, determined. But now, there's a new darkness in his eyes. Donnie doesn't trust him. Not yet. But he also knows having Nick on the inside could be useful. So, after a long pause, Donnie nods. The game has changed. Nick is now inside the Panther crew. As the crew finalized their strategy, an unexpected complication emerged. The Sicilian mafia had caught wind of the Antwerp heist. The stolen red diamond wasn't just valuable, it was a symbol owned by a powerful figure known only as the Octopus. The mafia wanted blood, and their reach extended far beyond Italy. The warning was clear: if they failed, they were dead. Despite the added pressure, the heist was set in motion. The night of the heist, the streets of Nice were bustling. Tourists, locals, and socialites filled the avenues, unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. Inside the Grand World Diamond Center, high-ranking executives and security personnel moved with a sense of prestige. The building was a fortress, reinforced vaults, biometric scans, and high-tech surveillance. But the Panther crew, known for their precision, had never met a challenge they couldn't crack. Giovanna and the rest of the crew were positioned outside, monitoring security rotations and police activity. In an expensive, tailored suit, Donnie Wilson blended effortlessly into the opulence of the financial district. He was on a reconnaissance mission, mapping out every detail of the vault structure, noting the timing of guard rotations, the positioning of security cameras, and the subtle behavioral cues of the bank employees. Giovanna had already secured an inside link: Shova, the vault manager's wife. Shova, burdened by a failing marriage and a deep-seated resentment towards her husband's wealth, had an incentive: she wanted her own escape, and the Panthers promised her that. Her job was simple: provide security clearance access and insider intelligence. The infiltration was flawless. Shova provided access codes, Donnie disabled the motion detectors, and Giovanna, acting as their eyes from a rooftop vantage point, signaled when to move and when to freeze. Then, the first crack in the plan appeared. A security guard noticed something off: the magnetized rod the Panthers had used to descend into the vault room was still attached to the rooftop. Nick was the last one meant to use it. But with security on high alert, he had no choice but to retreat. He threw his bag of stolen diamonds over the edge, letting it land safely in Giovanna's waiting hands. Then, with the instincts of a cornered animal, he moved back into the building, looking for another exit. A guard spotted him. A brief but violent struggle ensued. Nick, out of options, shot the guard clean in the chest before bolting to a balcony, scaling the edge to rejoin the crew. Meanwhile, the getaway had already begun. The Panthers, driving a white luxury SUV, peeled through the streets. At a secured location, they activated a hidden mechanism that stripped the vehicle's color to black, making them untraceable to the authorities. They were almost free, but then, the ambush came. As the Panthers entered a darkened tunnel outside the city, gunfire erupted. The Tigers, a brutal rival gang with a grudge, had been waiting for them. Bullets shredded through metal and glass. The crew fought back, exchanging fire in the chaos. Then, their car was hit. Trapped. Outnumbered. The Panthers were cornered until the Octopus henchmen arrived. Like ghosts in the dark, the Mafia's men neutralized the Tigers in seconds, a chilling display of efficiency. Donnie locked eyes with the Sicilian enforcer who had given them the warning in Monaco. "You owe us," the enforcer said. Donnie knew what that meant: the diamond was no longer theirs. He had no choice but to hand it over. With the Mafia's favor repaid, the Panthers were given an escape vehicle. But freedom was short-lived. The French authorities, acting on an anonymous tip, stormed in. The takedown was swift: no time for escape, no room for negotiation. Giovanna, Donnie, and the rest of the crew were handcuffed and loaded into armored vans. The air was thick with betrayal. Someone had sold them out. But as they were being transported to detention, one thing stood out: Nick O'Brien was taken into a separate vehicle. At that moment, the Panthers realized the truth. Nick had never been one of them. He was the informant. Weeks later, Donnie sat inside his prison cell, staring at the grey walls. His mind replayed every moment: the heist, the escape, the betrayal. Then, one day, he had a visitor. Nick O'Brien stepped into the room, his presence filling the space. He wasn't smug, nor was he apologetic. He was simply there. For a long moment, neither man spoke. But then, Nick leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. "Sit back, left." It was a simple phrase. But to Donnie, it was everything. Donnie didn't know when it would happen, but he knew it would. And then, one day, during a routine transport to another facility, it began. A convoy of prison vehicles moved steadily along a deserted road. Inside one of them, Donnie sat still, pretending not to notice the sudden shift in atmosphere. Then, out of nowhere, helicopters appeared overhead. In the chaos, the prison bus came to a halt. The doors were yanked open, and before he could even react, strong hands pulled him out. He was whisked away into a waiting helicopter. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Because Donnie already knew who was behind this. The octopus. Across from him sat the octopus, the powerful mafia leader who had orchestrated the escape. "You are talented," the older man said, studying Donnie. "You could be useful to me." Donnie knew there was no refusal. This wasn't a request, it was an offer wrapped in an unspoken threat. And so, just like that, his fate was sealed. He was no longer a fugitive. He was a new recruit. Meanwhile, Nick O'Brien drove along the coastline, the wind whipping past him. His phone buzzed. A message flashed across the screen. "See you soon."